So we have a treat today. We have Erica Delong, who is the morning radio's sweetheart. And in our area, she is the co-host of Bob and the Showgram. And she's going to talk to us about being a sexually positive woman.
Yeah, that's right. I'm positive that I love sex. That's good, right?
Awesome. Hello again, and welcome to Foreplay Radio Sex Therapy. I'm your host, certified sex therapist Laurie Watson, author of Wanting Sex Again, and blogger at Psychology Today and WebMD. And I have with me Dr. Adam Matthews, my co-host, who's a couples therapist, psychotherapist, and president of NCAMFT. Foreplay is dedicated to helping couples keep it hot. Thanks for listening. Now on to today's topic. So today, Erica, thank you so much for being here. Erica is the co-host of a huge morning show. I mean, it's gigantic.
Well, right? You're usually our guest on the show, so I'm like, it's cool to come to your, stomping ground.
I know. It's so good to have you. And I think what I'm excited about, first of all, I want to tell everybody who you are, and they can find you on iHeartRadio, right?
Yep.
And they just look for Bob and the Showgram.
Bob and the Showgram, or I'm on any social media outlet at Erica Delong. Very simple. If you ever have any questions about radio or whatever it might be, I'm available.
Yeah, and you also are a red carpet interviewer for the Oscars.
You've been going through my website.
I have, the Tony Awards. You were the New York Fashion Week. Girl, you're
my
big
biggest
time.
job is mommy, though.
That's
my favorite job.
Mommy.
Yeah.
That is so nice. 2 beautiful babies.
Yep.
But you are suffering all the stress, right? You're working full time and then some. You suffer the stress of being a mommy of 2 babies, and you still have maintained this sex-positive attitude, which you do talk about on the air, and that's why I was so excited to have you. So we call you a sexual
My husband
pursuer.
may not love it, but he's so used to me being open that he's like, whatever. There she goes again.
Oh, well, so in a dynamic, most of the time, one partner is kind of more of the chaser and the other one backs up more. Mm-hmm. And you've talked about that you love sex and that you are open about that. That's really unusual for women, especially to say it out loud, to say it on the air, for crying out loud. That's amazing.
I've always been very sexual. I only had a few partners in my life that were long-term relationships, but I had a horrible philosophy. Put out or get out. That sounds so horrible, but that's kind of like the mentality to put it in. That's not, look, y'all's eyes are like, oh my gosh.
No, but that's what you thought about with your male partners.
But yes, but I've had long-term boyfriends, and that would be, it was always sexual because it was, I don't know, it would bring us together.
Yeah, and it was your love language, right?
Right.
Physical intimacy, sexuality is how you connect.
Yep.
And I think that there are so many male listeners who probably dominantly, 75% of men are the sexual pursuers, but they're often the emotional distancers in their relationships. And the women are often the emotional pursuers, so they want more talking time, intimacy, closeness, but they're not as interested in the bedroom. So there is kind of this split in our culture about that.
So is it weird that I feel both? I feel like I'm emotional.
No, it is not weird.
Okay, because I'm both those, the emotional pursuer and the sexual pursuer.
Right. So you're congruent, basically. You are both the same direction in terms of going towards your partner, wanting from your partner, presenting, initiating, seducing, and wanting time together, talking, and deeper intimacy, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you, girl.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, that's why you're an expert, and we see you on TV, and you got books and everything else.
But I feel for you, and I think that
it's hard though.
It is hard,
and it's hard when you're with your group of girlfriends. Are like, oh, he's got to touch me again. I'm so sick of him, and I'm like, yeah, I wish mine would want to touch me more.
Right.
Right.
In the cocktail party, and they're like, oh, he's always pawing at me.
Right.
And you're just standing there silent, right? Because
I'm the pawer.
You're the pawer. So tell us how you grew up with such a positive attitude about sex that you could express yourself this way and let yourself feel it.
I don't know because I don't even remember having the birds and bees conversation with my parents. Mm-hmm. I don't, but I was always very honest and open with my parents. So my first encounter was my high school sweetheart and we also dated in college. And we had waited for a long time, but we finally did it. And I remember the only conversation with my parents is my mom says, "I smell sex on you." I was like, "Mom,
wow.
you know how moms are. She knows everything."
Such an intimate, kind of invasive, if you will,
Yes.
way to say it to you.
And that was her way of tricking
Right.
me. I was like, "No, you don't. How?" And then she said, "Because you just told me." But that was kind of like how we started our conversation about that. But really, I don't remember how it all started.
So once she said that, go back to that moment. Did she help you? Did she encourage you? Did she talk
we
about
had been
what to
dating-
expect? Or
I had been dating that boy for about a year and a half at that point, and I was right at the 18-year-old mark, I think. And she just, I don't know. She really didn't say a lot because I was a very good kid. And so she didn't have to worry about me trying to get pregnant or anything like that because my mom was focused on school. So I don't really recall, and I don't know if this is helpful, but I don't recall like all the talks that we're trained to do with our kids and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And even sex ed in school, I vaguely remember that. So that's why I don't know how I became
So positive.
a dominant person when it comes to the pursuer in the relationship.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing that you kind of did it with so little support and help from your parents or the culture, because we know the culture
what are parents supposed to do? Are they supposed to they told me to be protective, but I was more focused on sports at school and things like that. So I don't recall.
So, I mean, I think that, it's a long conversation with our children about that should start at the very beginning, the birds and the bees this is, all your different parts and a sense of giving your body to yourself from your parents. I think that certainly, yes, in young adulthood or in teenage years, there are two messages. One is protective, but the other is pleasure. Like this is the way your body is supposed to feel good. It doesn't actually make kids promiscuous when their parents tell them about orgasm and tell them that their body is supposed to feel good.
Right.
It turns out it actually dials down promiscuity. Especially for girls, when the message comes from the mother, where she's open and talks about it with a sense of positivity, it actually makes girls feel in control, right? It isn't some boy who gave her an orgasm. It's like she already knew she could have one.
Right.
She owned her body.
The only weird thing, which I've never admitted to anybody before.
Oh, my gosh.
I've never admitted this. I don't even know if I want to share it.
Well, we can edit out, too.
I don't even know. I've really never told anybody this. I don't even think I told my mom. But when I was younger, I had a reoccurring dream a few times that I hooked up with Crocodile Dundee. And I don't know why.
That is crazy funny.
And this is before I was anywhere near any kind of sexual phase in my life. Again, I was like 18, so I didn't mess around with a lot of boys. I just don't know where that came from. So maybe from the time I was born, I just had this little gene in me that was like, she's going to love sex. I don't know.
That is so
I'm really glad I admitted that on a podcast. That's great.
So glad you did. That is so funny. But, kids actually do have fantasies, sexual fantasies, and many times it like primes their pattern. I
was hooking up with Crocodile Dundee.
He's this hero, figure right, ultra masculine, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I mean, that was kind of like you were maybe destined to be a sexually positive
That feels weird that I
woman.
just put that out there, but it's fun.
I think that's fabulous.
Okay.
I really do. I think it's fabulous that we can even talk about children thinking about sex, because many times parents want to believe, no. They're only sexual, later on, right? When they're 30.
Do kids even realize like what they're thinking? So I have a 3-year-old son, and I'm sure at some point he's going to think things, or he's always like, "Mommy, you're so beautiful." I know it's not put together, but eventually, do you think they think things not realizing what it means?
Yeah, I think they think things and don't realize what it means. I mean, kids are wide open to sensuality.
Yeah.
And, they feel those feelings, but they don't connect it with sexuality. Sometimes parents freak out when they find their child masturbating because they're like, oh, they're becoming sexual. Not really. They're just becoming stimulated. They know the feeling. So we want to help them own their body and take pleasure in it. But that doesn't really mean that they're destined to be worried about. We don't need to worry about them. They're just their body is their body, and they find out this feels good and this doesn't. So yeah. So no, I don't think that it particularly even necessarily meant something sexual, even though it might have been sexually arousing. I mean, lots of times the weird thing is sex dreams sometimes mean something else, and other dreams mean things about sex. But I think it's a fabulous
Well, I never told anybody that because I was
fantasy.
like, oh my gosh, I don't think they want them to think I was molested by somebody or something like
Right.
that, because it felt like a weird dream, which at the time I didn't even know where it came from. But when I got older, I was like, oh my gosh,
Well,
I don't want
Crocodile
people to
Dundee
think that.
was hot.
He was hot. I think
you
I saw it
know?
on TV, and I don't know.
And you probably felt the tension between him and the leading lady. I can't remember what her name was, but
See, I don't even remember her. I
Yeah.
just remember him in
Yeah.
that white shirt
but
and
that
his hat.
that was really sexy. So you go to all of these shows and things like that. How do you manage to keep up your self-image? There's so much pressure for women. I think you counter that. You're a beautiful woman. Those of you who will put Erica on our website, right? Can't we do that? She's just a beautiful woman.
Thanks.
And
Y'all are
I've
beautiful women too.
Oh, thank you. I've seen you somewhat on the runway. I've seen a few snaps of that, and you just look gorgeous. But how do you
lot of
manage?
makeup.
How do you manage in this high pressure setting to maintain and still
I'm barely getting by. I don't even feel like I'm maintaining. I feel like a mess most days. You just fake it till you make it.
But you in the bedroom, you're still good. You take
I'm
that.
very insecure in the bedroom. Even
Are
though I'm the more
you?
dominant one, I'm very insecure about my body. Yes, very.
Okay.
But that doesn't stop me from anything. It's just that I think because of my insecurities and the fact that I'm the pursuer, that makes even more stress on the situation because I feel very unwanted.
Yeah. Okay. Let's come back after the break and talk about sort of how to manage that.
Right.
That feelings of rejection and how your self-image plays into this, because I think
that's hard. I mean,
a lot
it
of
is,
women
yeah.
will identify with it, especially sexually pursuing women will identify with, yeah, but sometimes I still don't feel so great about myself. And then if there's rejection on top of it,
Right.
they make things up about that. So that is awesome that you brought it up. We'll
Okay.
talk about that in a minute. So we want to remind all of you that we are thankful for the way you've shared the podcast. We continue to grow. It is our greatest honor when you share with a friend the work that we're doing in trying to help people reframe their sexual life in a way that is understandable and not so mysterious, so that they can make positive changes and strengthen their marriages and their partnerships. And I think the last thing we'd like to say is both of us are doing intensives. Our summer schedules are getting filled up. So if you would like to work with us, let us know and call our centers. You can find us at foreplayradiosextherapy.com.
And if you like what we're doing and want to help support us, we'd love for you to rate and review us on iTunes. It'd be super helpful for us. So thanks for listening.
So we are back with Erica Delong from G105, America's sweetheart in the
thank
morning.
you.
And what you were saying just a little bit ago about how you are a sexual pursuer, and it complicates your body self-image, because sometimes when you get that no and that rejection, you internalize it into yourself, because you said, I do struggle.
Right.
Even though you're this beautiful woman, glamorous places, you look glamorous all the time, and you still struggle, and you struggle in the bedroom with self-consciousness, which
Right.
I think so many of our listeners are going to say, oh, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, like on the outside, people are like, oh, it seems together. But on the
Mm-hmm.
inside, I kind of die some days, if you want to put it that way, because I do feel like I don't want to say not good enough, but, when I'm pursuing my husband and maybe I'm rejected because he's tired, I don't understand that. And I'm like, oh, okay, I've gotten fat, or I didn't snap back after having a kid, or what am I doing wrong? Or, who knows what it might be, or my boob's too saggy. Like, there's all these things that pop into my head.
Yeah. So what you take inside is a message that it's about your body.
Right.
And I think that a lot of men, too, who are sexually rejected also ask themselves, well, is it because I'm not attractive enough?
Right.
I think it's, our culture is so big on women being so attractive, ultra fit. I mean, these stars who come back and they're uber fit after baby. I don't know how they do that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's not real. I don't know. There
And
was
I
a
know
time lapse. There's something.
I know in reality it's not that with my husband, because, we're going on our 4th year of marriage, but we've been together a decade. I know it's not that, so I'm phasing out of that. But now I'm just kind of like, what can we do to close this gap?
Right.
Because it's like I went from self-doubt to now I'm angry to, well, I'm going to stop caring eventually.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'm going to describe that for our peeps. Basically what Erica is saying is she's been the pursuer, and then she got mad, critical, angry, And now she's kind of a given up pursuer. She's backing off, more hopeless, really, in terms of, okay, I haven't been able to make this change.
Right.
Have you noticed anything in your partner? Like, does he notice that more given up place in you?
I don't know if now, because we have a new baby that was in the NICU, so it was just a lot going on. So I don't know
stressful.
if we're just both so exhausted that maybe he doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if that stands out.
He hasn't noticed.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest
fear. And that's the way
fear.
it feels unnoticed.
Right.
Because if I were to bring it up, it doesn't seem off to him, but I'm like, this is not the connection that I'm yearning for. Like, I need deeper than what we're having right now.
Mm-hmm. You need that intimacy,
right,
both emotionally and sexually, to feel secure. And that's what happens in sexuality, is it actually, especially for those of us who are, like, feel the body as the avenue to connection, it makes us feel deeply secure. When we are secure, we're able to tolerate a lot more distance, ironically. You know, it's like, yeah, as long as we know we're good, our partner can go off and do their thing and, you know, we'll be okay. But when there is that fragileness to the relationship, it just reinforces, oh, maybe we can't get together. Maybe we won't get together. And that's scary.
And I think when the sex is off, at least for me, it bleeds into other parts of the relationship. And so I feel like everything goes haywire when there's no sex.
Absolutely.
Like, it just feels like that's the root. That and your money, which we're both smart financially, so the sex is the root of our evil, so to speak. It just bleeds out.
That's the place that you have
for
this
me,
tug of war.
For him, he's like, it's fine. But for me, it's like, this is an issue.
Mm-hmm. Does he ever talk about his perspective? Like, does he feel like he's drowning in sexual requests? Or
because I've been critical, it pushes him further. Because I become like, what's the problem? And I guess I know there are other women, but I feel critical about it because I'm kind of angry.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people listening to this podcast cheering. I just want you to know, because I think that's the problem, is our culture, we don't talk about it that much, especially we don't talk about it as women sexual pursuers, so you can feel really alone. But there are a lot of women just like this who do feel angry, do feel rejected, and feel hurt. So this is the challenge. The sexual pursuer has to contain their anxiety about not getting enough.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that you stop asking. Actually, stopping asking is a bad strategy, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
Because often sexual distancers, they don't feel the body as a path. So if you stop asking, sex will just stop. So, but learning to ask and be direct about it without anger is really important. Like, I mean, you've probably done some of this already, but going to him and saying, look, this is my love language. This is how I feel connected. Can we connect every Saturday?
Right.
You know, even though nobody particularly likes scheduled sex, knowing that it's coming once a week and that there's time set aside for it, would he do that, do you think?
He would. And my husband is amazing, so I'm not dissing it. It feels like I am. But I think because it's not necessarily his love language, it'll be like, you ready to do it? And I'm like, okay. It's been forever, and then you're going to say you want to do it. That is not the approach that I was looking for.
Right.
So then it kind of starts this cycle where that one little spot we had scheduled then is just a flop.
Okay, so what you're saying is he acts like he's got to check the box.
It's like a chore.
It's a chore.
And that makes me mad because I think it's a beautiful thing that should be natural between couples.
Right.
That's how I see it.
Right. And it turns you off because you don't feel that sensuality coming from him, that seduction. Okay, so oftentimes you actually have to kind of shape your partner into the direction that they need to go.
Right.
So first of all, since you know that's a pattern, actually, because you know it's a pattern, you can change it.
Okay.
It's the things that catch us off guard that are harder to change. So this is like sit down at Sola Coffee some morning when late morning when you get to sleep in for once in your life.
Yeah.
And you go to coffee and somebody watches the kids and you say, okay, I want to help you love me. And this is what I need from you.
That's a good way to say it because it's not attacking.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not, you never do this, you don't do that. Start with the positive, like teach him gently. You know what, this is how I really love it. I love spending a time with you, maybe on Saturday for like a couple of hours so that we're going to be intimate.
Right.
But what I really need from you is to come up behind me, slip your arms around me, and kiss the back of my neck and say, I want to make love to you.
Okay, yeah.
Just really spell it out. You would not believe how concrete some people are. And they need coaching. It's like they literally need you to be their coach. And I think if you have a partner who's a sexual distancer, spelling it out, and if they get it with their heart, they can attempt to do that.
Okay.
Also, as a sexual pursuer, you got to take down anger.
Yeah.
That's...
It does make you angry when you don't get sex.
Yes.
It does. Girls are feisty.
Yeah, that's right.
They're feisty people.
Absolutely. And it makes anybody angry when they lose that release, that sense of pleasure and the endorphins that come. Because don't you also notice the opposite? When you have sex, especially if it's connected sex, you actually feel relaxed and connected again with your partner.
And I feel super lovey, yeah.
And super lovey. And, they don't do something that you want them to do. It's like,
that's
okay.
Fine.
That's fine.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a Xanax,
I should tell him that, too. Like, hey, have sex with me. It's like having Xanax for me.
Absolutely. You've also got to request directly. And that's what we've been talking about is don't give up requesting. But make it positive and do it at a time that it's neutral.
Okay.
I think the other thing is this is the most difficult, is you got to accept a no and not take it personally.
Okay.
Like tell them, you know what, if you don't want to do it, if you really don't, you're not in the mood or whatever, it's fine to tell me no. And work really, really, really hard on not going away licking your wounds. It's like, okay, this is a moment he's not into it. That's okay. Especially that's easier to endure if you have some pattern of regularity.
Okay.
Because then I'm not saying that's the only time you might want sex. You might want sex on Tuesday night too.
Right.
And you can tell him. Does he have any fears like I'm not going to please her or things like that? Does he know how to please you?
Are you asking me if my husband does? So
yeah.
I think so I always talk about how I'm a deep person with many layers, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like he's told me that. He's like, please explain it to me. And I don't really know how to put that into words. I try to give examples, so he really wouldn't know. I could tell him, but it feels like it's sometimes surface level, and I'm looking for a deepness.
You're looking for something
sense?
In terms of conversation.
Just the whole thing
connection.
Is like a deep connection to me. It's not just sex. It's like a connection.
Right.
So like orgasms, you say most women do not orgasm. I do because I can think it.
Yeah.
I can think.
Girlfriend, you stood at the front of the line when God handed it out.
No, but you can think it if you're in the moment. I feel like you really can make it happen.
You can, and just for the record, women can actually have thought orgasms. And a guy friend of mine says, Laurie, if men could do that, the world would stop.
And I don't mean I can do it by standing there.
Blink.
But in the action, I usually can make that happen because my mind is in the right place.
You turn it on.
Yeah.
You turn your mind on.
I don't just stand at the grocery line having orgasms. But that would be fun, but I don't.
But that's awesome.
Okay.
So are you reassuring to him? Can you say to him, you know what? I got the goods. You do not have to worry about pleasing me. I can help you please me in the moment. Can you be really reassuring about, I love being with you. I love you touching me in this way. Like offering him a lot of reassurance. You would not believe how insecure men are sometimes in the bedroom.
I'm the culprit for probably a lot of the distance too, because I'm not reassuring because I had been angry about it. So with the guidance of you and just like I could definitely change that around, and it would probably make a big difference.
Yeah, I think that helps, especially men have an ego about sex that women don't. Not that women don't get insecure about how they're doing in the bedroom, but often their security is how they're looking in the bedroom. Men's insecurity is more how they're performing in the bedroom.
Right.
And so if they have a partner who says, love it, love that. Big thing for a sexual pursuer is to get out of bed and say, that was fabulous. And don't, say it could have been better or this is how I would have liked it more. Don't offer anything at that moment. Just like, gold star, buddy.
Okay.
You got it. That was awesome. Done. And then just zip it.
Kind of treat it like a kid when they're doing their artwork. You're like, that's amazing.
Right. Exactly.
And it's like a scribble line. Just Not saying that your husband would do a script, but
you're
you just
shaping it into a direction.
Right.
Right. I mean, it encourages the kid to do art.
Right.
And so, if you encourage your partner with sexual, joy and exclamation, it encourages them to want to do sex.
Okay.
It's true. It's very true. Okay, well, you are amazing. You're a rock star in the world of radio and now in television. And I thank you so much for many things. I think especially, as I've been a listener over the years and I've listened to your sex positive message for women, I can't even tell you how grateful I am for that, for the women in our culture, to hear that from another woman who, celebrates sex and talks about it. That is a huge gift that you are giving the world. So thank you for that.
Okay, I didn't know, but thank you. Well, thank you for always being on our show and letting me join you guys today.
Yeah, thanks so much.
You can now call in your questions to the Foreplay question voicemail. Dial 833-MY-4PLAY. That's 833-4-PLAY. And we'll use the questions for our mailbag episodes.
Hey, help us stay on top here at Foreplay. We'd love it if you would subscribe and share it with your friends. And please take 1 sec and rate and review us. Thanks so much.
All content is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as a substitute for therapy by a licensed clinician